Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications before we begin, because today's story dives deeper than the headlines ever did. Paragraph 1. 2 decades have gone by, yet the story of Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie still hangs in the air like an unfinished sentence. Their marriage wasn't quiet or ordinary. It was loud, reckless, and unforgettable in ways Hollywood still talks about. But the way it ended left behind a kind of silence that no interview or headline ever truly explained. For years, Billy avoided questions, dodging the emotional truth with humor and jokes about living in hotels after every breakup. Time, however, has a way of catching up with even the most guarded hearts. Recently, Billy finally opened up about what really happened behind closed doors, and what he revealed shows a side of their relationship the public never saw. A side shaped by wounds long before Angelina entered his life. Before Angelina Jolie became part of his world, Billy Bob Thornton was already a man carrying the weight of broken relationships. By the late 90s, he had been married 4 times, and each marriage left behind scars he didn't always talk about. His first marriage to Melissa Lee Gatlin, beginning in 1978, collapsed quickly as he struggled to survive in Hollywood. Their daughter, Amanda, grew up distant from him, a regret that followed him for years. His second marriage to actress Toni Lawrence also faded as quickly as it began. There was no stability, only long nights of writing, auditioning, and trying to find his place in the industry. Love simply didn't get the space it needed to breathe. Then came his marriage to actress Cinda Williams, built on creative spark but lacking the foundation of long-term compatibility. They separated in 1992, both admitting later they shouldn't have tied the knot at all. But the most turbulent chapter came next, his fourth marriage to model Petra Don Cherniak. They had 2 sons, and from the outside, seemed stable. But inside, the relationship was collapsing under pressure, accusations, and emotional chaos neither of them knew how to escape from. By the time their divorce turned bitter in 1997, Billy's confidence in marriage was already destroyed. He often joked about hiding in hotels after divorces, but behind the laughter was a man losing trust in himself. By the time Angelina Jolie walked onto the set of Pushing Tin in 1999, Billy Bob Thornton was 44 years old, tired, insecure, and already engaged to Laura Dern. Angelina, just 24, was rising fast in Hollywood. Wild, intense, and unapologetically herself, she carried an energy impossible to ignore. Their connection wasn't slow or subtle. It hit instantly, catching both off guard and everyone around them by surprise. The chemistry wasn't logical, but it was undeniable. There was only one problem: Billy wasn't free, and what happened next would become one of Hollywood's coldest breakup stories. While Laura Dern was away filming, Billy and Angelina's relationship deepened. The emotional shift was so dramatic that, without warning, Billy flew to Las Vegas and married Angelina in May 2000. Laura said later she found out the way the world did, through the news. "I left our home to work on a movie," she said, "and while I was away, my boyfriend got married." The shock was instant, and the criticism immediate. Their marriage began under a shadow they never addressed publicly. But once they were together, they became inseparable, always holding on to each other like the rest of the world didn't exist. Their public displays of affection were constant, bold, and impossible to ignore. The media couldn't get enough. Fans were fascinated, critics were confused, and tabloids exaggerated everything. The most infamous detail was the necklaces containing drops of each other's blood. A simple symbolic gesture became a twisted rumor, blown into a myth of vials and wild rituals. Billy later said the truth was small and harmless, but the narrative had already escaped them. They were passionate, strange, intense, and unforgettable. The kind of couple people still talk about because they never quite made sense. But underneath the passion, differences were already forming cracks. Angelina was stepping into global fame, filled with ambition, humanitarian passion, and an energy that made her unstoppable. Billy, however, was retreating into himself, overwhelmed by public attention and crowds. He described himself as agoraphobic, someone who felt safest in small spaces and familiar routines. Angelina thrived on adventure, change, and pushing boundaries. Billy needed calm, predictability, and quiet. Their love was real, but their worlds were already moving in opposite directions. In 2002, Angelina made a life-changing decision, adopting her first child, Maddox. Billy was part of the process, traveling with her to Cambodia and supporting the decision. But once they returned home, everything shifted. Angelina stepped fully into motherhood, instantly embracing the role. Billy loved children, but the timing overwhelmed him. His emotional world was already fragile, and the sudden change became too much. What felt natural and joyful to Angelina felt fast and heavy to him. Slowly, they began living parallel lives instead of a shared one. While Angelina embraced activism, travel, motherhood, and global attention, Billy retreated behind music and writing. He began feeling not good enough for her, watching her grow into one of the biggest stars in the world. His insecurities deepened, and the emotional distance grew. There were no explosive fights or dramatic moments. Their marriage didn't collapse loudly. It simply faded, the way a fire burns out when the room grows too big for the flame. By the end of 2002, they were barely seen together. Their connection had become a memory they didn't know how to hold on to. When their divorce was finalized in 2003, the world still didn't know the truth. Rumors filled the silence: age gap, scandals, personality clashes, jealousy, career differences. But years later, Billy finally shared the real reason. "We just had different lifestyles," he said simply. Those 5 words carried the weight of everything they had been through. Angelina's life was outward, filled with purpose, movement, and big choices. Billy's life was inward, rooted in small spaces, quiet moments, and the need for emotional safety. They loved each other, but they weren't built for the same future. Billy made it clear there was no betrayal, no dramatic ending, no hidden scandal. They just grew in separate directions. He also defended Angelina, saying their marriage wasn't nearly as wild as the media made it seem. The blood necklaces, just tiny droplets in tiny lockets. Their relationship was intense, yes, but not outrageous. And unlike many Hollywood divorces, Billy never spoke badly about her. "Angie is still a friend of mine," he said. "A wonderful person. I look at that time as a great time in my life." His respect for her never faded. After the divorce, Billy disappeared from the spotlight for a while. It wasn't dramatic, it was just who he was. He returned to music with his band, the Boxmasters, finding comfort in the one place that always made sense to him. Acting remained in his life, but he chose roles that didn't demand constant public attention. He didn't chase the spotlight anymore. He had learned how exhausting it could be for someone wired like him. His healing came from simplicity, from stepping out of Hollywood's fast lane and into a quieter world he could control. Not long after, he met Connie England, a woman who worked behind the scenes in film, far away from cameras and red carpets. She wasn't a celebrity, and she preferred privacy. For Billy, it was exactly what he needed. With Connie, he didn't have to pretend. He didn't have to travel the world or keep up with a lifestyle that drained him. They built a calm, steady relationship that lasted more than a decade before they married in 2014. Their daughter, Bella, became the center of his world. He once said, "She's my speed," and those 3 words revealed the peace he had finally found. Angelina, meanwhile, moved into a completely different life, raising 6 children, traveling to conflict zones, directing films, and becoming a global humanitarian icon. Her path and Billy's path drifted so far apart that their marriage now feels like a moment frozen in time. They weren't meant for the same kind of world, and that became clear as their lives evolved. Yet the love they shared wasn't erased by time. It simply softened, becoming something neither regretted but both outgrew. 2 decades later, the truth behind their breakup is no longer mysterious. It's human, simple, and far less dramatic than the tabloids wanted it to be. Sometimes love isn't enough when 2 people are shaped for different futures. Billy and Angelina met at a time when they needed each other emotionally, but not a time when they could grow together. If they had met at a different moment in life, could things have turned out differently? Maybe, maybe not. Now it's your turn. Do you think their love could have lasted under different circumstances? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more Hollywood stories.